Many people felt as though a small guard could not lead a team to a genuine championship, especially in today's NBA game. The only point guard to ever do it was honestly Stephen Curry himself, and he was tremendously successful because of the system that the Golden State Warriors ran. There's a new guard on the scene now, though, that has people questioning if it can be done by the right players. That person is none other than the New York Knicks' Jalen Brunson. And today, we're going to delve into the numbers and see what exactly makes him so special and determine if the Knicks are genuine championship contenders. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the video. Jalen Brunson is a point guard listed at roughly 6'2" and 190 pounds. He currently plays for the New York Knicks, but started out his career with Dallas alongside Luka Doncic, where they created somewhat of a lethal duo up until his final year, where he was averaging 16.3 points, 3.9 rebounds, and 4.8 assists, shooting 50% from the field and 37% from the three-point range. Then he was sent to the New York Knicks, where things got a little bit more interesting for him. In his first year, playing in 68 games, starting all 68 of them, putting together 24 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 6.2 assists, shooting 49.1% from the field and 41.6% from three, to go along with 82.9% from the free throw line. Overall, it was his best season to date. But then he followed it up with this season with the Knicks again, this time playing 77 games and scoring 28.7 points per match, to go along with 3.6 rebounds, a career high 6.7 assists, while shooting 47.9% from the field on 21.4 shot attempts, and also shooting 40% from the three-point line on 6.8 three-point attempts per game, to go along with 84.7% from the free throw line, with a genuinely impressive true shooting percentage of 59.2%. All in all, things were looking very good for him individually as a player, and things really started to heat up as time went on. But things got a little bit dicey though after Julius Randle went down with injury for the remainder of the season, even though they ended up obtaining OG Anunoby via trade. Now, the trade deadline, the Knicks were obviously very active, and they added some very interesting pieces and sent away some pieces that had been helpful or just had been sitting on the bench. The important thing to know, though, is the fact that the New York Knicks head coach is Tom Thibodeau, and he has been notorious for overplaying his starters to the point where some people would assume that their injuries are because of him. Now, admittedly, injuries come with the game. That's just how it happens. And if somebody plays in the game significantly more than they normally would, or more than another player, by default, they're definitely more likely to get injured in general, so there is some merit to the argument. But Jalen Brunson has been an anomaly in that situation because he's been able to play high minutes over the stretch of the entirety of the season, been almost available the entirety of the year, with the exception of 5 games, and then went into the playoffs, and he's had numerous games where he's played 40 minutes per match. In the first round, he averaged 43.8 minutes per game against the Philadelphia 76ers in a 6-game series. Then he's following it up in a 7-game series against the Indiana Pacers, currently averaging 37.6 minutes. In the first round against Philly, he played 44 minutes, 51 minutes, 44 minutes, 45 minutes, 38 minutes, and 41 minutes in totality. However, against the Indiana Pacers, where there's been more of an up and down sway as far as the game scores go, he played 44 minutes, 32 minutes, 38 minutes, 31 minutes, 43 minutes, and 38 minutes. There's a very stark difference in those, but all in all, he's played a significantly high number of minutes in both series. In the first round of the playoffs, they knew that Jalen Brunson was going to have to be the reason why they won those games. They still have Dante DiVincenzo. They still have Mitchell Robinson. They still had OG Anunoby at the time, and they still had Josh Hart. But a lot of those guys are glue guys and defensive anchors. They're not necessarily the guys that are going to give you 30 on any given night, nor are they capable of doing it on a consistent basis or at all, to be quite frank with you. Jalen Brunson, knowing this, knew that he was going to be taking a large number of shot attempts and took it to heart. In that first round series, he averaged 29.2 field goal attempts per match, and 7.7 of those were threes. Because of this, though, he shot 42.9% from the field and 30.4% from three, and only 77.8% from the free throw line on 10.5 attempts per game. In total, his numbers from an average standpoint were 35.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, 9 assists, 0.7 steals, 0.2 blocks, and a whopping 2.8 turnovers per match. Looking forward into the second round, which is the conference semifinals, whose game is about to be occurring in the very near future for their game 7 to determine who goes on to the conference finals. He's averaging 24.7 shot attempts per game, and 5.8 of those are threes, to go along with 8.7 free throw attempts. In those categories, he's shooting 47.3% from the field, 31.4% from three, and 76.9% from the free throw line. His total averages from the series, though, are 31.8 points, 2.7 rebounds, 5.7 assists, 1 steal, 0.2 blocks, and still 2.8 turnovers per game. However, the biggest difference is in the first round, his box score plus minus was a negative 0.7. But in this series, his box score plus minus is a positive 4.2, meaning that he is greatly affecting the game in all positive ways with himself being on the floor. This can be attributed to the lesser number of field goal attempts that he's overall taking himself and the higher percentage that he's hitting them at. Admittedly, it is obviously a 5% increase in total field goal percentage, which can be substantial over the course of the entire series, especially when you take into account he's taking about 100 field goal attempts every 4 games. And being that there are 6 games in now, that's almost 150 field goal attempts for a singular player. Effectively, he takes almost a third of his team's shot attempts, and he does the most that he can with those attempts. He has been known to be a very tough shot maker, a tough shot taker. He does distribute the ball when necessary, but overall, he believes in himself and his own ability to be successful and lead his teammates to have the same level of success that he holds near and dear to his own heart. And that has honestly been the engine that has forced the New York Knicks forward. They have been known to be the Villanova boys because they have Josh Hart, they have Jalen Brunson, and they have Donte DiVincenzo. And having that 3-guy lineup on the court at the same time has done wonders for them. They all hustle, they all play for each other. The chemistry is uncanny, and you're seeing Josh Hart, who was a terrible 3-point shooter by all metrical categories previous to the playoffs, suddenly become a sharpshooter in the playoffs, and then Donte DiVincenzo being slid into the starting lineup changed the entire outcome of many of the games because of his infectious play and just his tenacity on both sides of the ball. But as stated before, everything goes through Jalen Brunson, and without Jalen Brunson's success on his own, there's only but so much that can be said about his teammates, because he will be the reason why the New York Knicks are able to be considered contenders or why they will end up falling short. Remember also that OG Anunoby has been out since game 2 of the Indiana Pacers series, and in the first 2 games, they won 121-117 and 130-121. In those 4 games in OG's absence, they've been 1-3. Despite pretty solid play from Jalen Brunson, it just hasn't been enough. They lost 106-111, 89-121. Then they won to keep themselves in that race, 121-91 to go up 3-2, and they just lost recently 103-116. With game 7 on the line and OG Anunoby expected to be questionable at the current moment and hopefully will be participating in shoot around and will end up being a game time decision, they need to win this game in order to go forward and see themselves in the conference finals for the first time in over 2 decades. I believe that the New York Knicks are a genuine contender at this point when all of their pieces are healthy. They have not had Julius Randle, and they will not have him during this playoff stint, which kind of skews the way that we will perceive them as a team as a whole. But from a role player standpoint, and from the fact that Tom Thibodeau has been able to coach these guys and get them to buy in on playing high level minutes and just being willing to hold themselves accountable to a certain level, Jalen Brunson is the correct captain of the ship. And because of his leadership, his offensive scoring output, and his ability to stay away from improper situations on defense and still kind of be there and not be abused on that side of the ball, has been the whole reason why the Knicks have been able to push as far as they have ever since they've made the trades that they've made, and even throughout the season with the injuries of past players. That being said, though, you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you think that Jalen Brunson can lead this Knicks team beyond the Boston Celtics, who will be waiting for them if they should win Game 7. And also let me know what you think his whole season has been. Do you think he has the star power to be a future Stephen Curry type of player? Or do you think that he's just going to be another great small guard? Think of the likes of a Kemba Walker, who was phenomenal for his city and remained a focal point for the entirety of his career. But he just was never going to be enough to be that first option, the likes of which Steph Curry was, in order to carry a championship home for his guys. Thanks for tuning in this video. It's your boy Wraith Hoos. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications, and become a member to help support the content. With that being said, good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.